don't. What kind of social institution is government anyway? Is it like a church or a university? Or is government the institution in charge of enacting and enforcing certain rules of behavior in any given society? Is all governmental action backed up by physical force and therefore essentially forceful? Let's see what happened when I asked Congresswoman Roybal-Allard that question. Is all governmental action backed up by physical force and therefore essentially forceful?
Is all government action backed up by physical force? For example?
Well, if you break a law, does the government intervene with you forcefully to make you comply with the law?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about driving beyond the speed limit and the police sees you, yes, they stop you and they give you a ticket.
Right.
If you're a drunk driver, government, in this case the police, stops you and you go to jail.
So all governmental action is backed up by physical force and therefore it's essentially forceful. If you don't follow a law, the government will intervene with you personally or with your property.
Well,
right?
I don't know that giving you a ticket would be considered physical.
Well, they stop
force.
you if you resist and you don't want to pay attention to what the policeman says, then he actually will intervene with you forcefully and make
and
it.
that, yeah,
right?
And that's what the American public wants to have, that kind of security in knowing that people who break the law, who are doing things that are immoral, are in fact going to be dealt with.
Right. The government then intervenes with them forcefully. Finally, she agrees that government action is forceful. However, later she will change her mind again and claim that governmental action is not forceful. Well, my question is, should the government take action against somebody who has not initiated or threatened to initiate force against anybody, hasn't violated anybody's property rights, and is in their sound mind?
Should they take action against someone who has
not initiated force against anybody, hasn't violated anybody's property rights, and is in their sound mind?
And for what reason would the government take action against a person who hasn't done anything?
Well, do you think that it's always wrong for them to do that, or do you think it's okay for the government to initiate force against innocent citizens?
Well, I mean, you have to give me an example of someone who isn't doing anything and an action is being taken against them.
Well, I'm asking you what your view is as a question of principle. Do you think that that would be wrong for the government to initiate physical force against somebody who is innocent and hasn't done anything to anybody?
Well, I think you're going to have to define what innocent is. I mean,
well,
innocent
I did.
might be from one.
He hasn't violated anybody's property rights, and he has not initiated or threatened to initiate force against anybody. That's what I mean by innocent.
And what kind of action would you be talking about?
Any action by the government, because all action is forceful.
Well, I don't necessarily agree in terms of you're saying that all action is forceful.
8-term Congresswoman Jackson Lee, a former judge, doesn't know or doesn't want us to know that a law is a rule you are forced to follow by the government.
I don't see anywhere that the government is using physical force on the American people.
The government doesn't enforce laws?
Yeah, they're legitimate laws. That's not physical force.
How does the government enforce a law if it isn't by force?
Well, first of all, the government doesn't need to enforce the laws by force because people consent to the laws. Most Americans are law-abiding in all
Right, but if you violate a law, the government will use force to make you follow the law. Is that not true?
Well, if it is a law that infringes upon the rights of other individuals, the American people will ask for law enforcement to be in place in the way that they should be in place.
So the government does use force.
That's
why they call it enforcement, because it's using force, right? You already heard Senator Harry Reid and Congressman Helfeld argue that people aren't forced to pay taxes. They claim that taxes are voluntary. Believe me, there are plenty more politicians who try to deny that people are forced by the government to follow the law. Why do they need to deny this obvious fact? They are trying to hide the fact that the government is forcefully redistributing the citizens'